Story 1. For generations, the mansion had passed through the hands of different owners, each with their own tales of strange occurrences. The locals spoke of it in hushed whispers, and children dared one another to approach its wrought iron gates after dark. But as the years went by, the stories faded into legend, and many believed them to be nothing more than folklore. That was until the Turner family decided to move in. Dr. Emily Turner, a renowned parapsychologist, was determined to uncover the truth behind the mansion's haunted reputation. With her husband, Mark, and their teenage daughter, Sarah, they arrived at the mansion on a chilly autumn evening. The grand entrance hall welcomed them with faded wallpaper and a grand chandelier that had seen better days. Sarah shivered as she stepped inside, feeling an eerie presence that seemed to linger in the shadows. Over the next few weeks, strange occurrences became part of their daily life. Objects moved on their own, cold drafts swept through rooms with no open windows, and whispers echoed through the empty hallways at night. But it was the feeling of being watched that unnerved them the most. One evening, as Emily was conducting an EP, electronic voice phenomenon, session in the drawing room, she heard a voice she couldn't explain. A ghostly whisper seemed to say, "Help us." She replayed the recording for her family, and their blood ran cold. Determined to get to the bottom of the mystery, the Turners delved into the mansion's history. They discovered that it had once been a sanatorium in the late 19th century, where patients had been subjected to cruel and experimental treatments. The spirits of those tormented souls seemed to linger, seeking closure. Emily and her family began researching ways to communicate with the restless spirits. They conducted seances, consulted mediums, and even attempted to reach out using advanced paranormal equipment. Slowly but surely, they made contact with the entities that haunted the mansion. Through their efforts, they learned the tragic stories of the lost souls bound to the mansion's walls. Each spirit had a unique tale of suffering and despair, and they longed for release from their eternal torment. Emily, with her deep empathy and understanding of the paranormal, vowed to help them find peace. As the months passed, the Turners worked tirelessly to provide solace to the trapped spirits. Emily conducted rituals to help them move on to the afterlife, and one by one, the chilling sensations of being watched began to subside. The mansion, once a place of fear, slowly transformed into a sanctuary for the departed. In the end, the Turners not only solved the mystery of the Victorian mansion, but also found a new purpose in life. They had turned a house of horrors into a place of healing, bridging the gap between the living and the dead, between the living and the dead. The stories of the mansion's haunting became tales of redemption, reminding everyone that even in the darkest places, there is the potential for light and hope. Story 2. One stormy night, a group of adventurous friends decided to spend the weekend at the haunted cottage. They had grown up hearing the spine, chilling legends, and were eager to test their courage. The group consisted of Sarah, a fearless skeptic, Mike, the daredevil, Lisa, the believer in all things supernatural, and Tom, the practical joker. The cottage's wooden door creaked open ominously as they entered, and a shiver ran down their spines. The interior was dark and gloomy, lit only by flickering candles they had brought along. Cobwebs hung in every corner, and the air was heavy with a sense of foreboding. As night fell and the wind howled outside, the group gathered around a table to try and make contact with the spirits. Lisa, armed with a Ouija board, led the seance. They placed their hands on the planchette and began to ask questions. At first, nothing happened, and the room remained eerily silent. Then, slowly but surely, the planchette began to move. It spelled out words in response to their inquiries, claiming to be the spirits of the previous inhabitants of the cottage. They told tales of tragedy and loss, explaining that they were trapped between realms, unable to move on. Sarah, the skeptic, suspected her friends of playing a prank and accused them of moving the planchette. But to her astonishment, the others denied it vehemently. As the séance continued, the room grew colder and a faint whispering filled the air. The group felt an unsettling sensation of being watched. Suddenly, the furniture in the room started to move on its own, chairs sliding across the floor and the table tilting. Panic swept through the group as they realized they were not alone. Fear gnawed at them, but they couldn't deny the presence of something beyond the natural. In a desperate attempt to break the connection, they said goodbye to the spirits and hastily packed their bags, fleeing the cottage as fast as their trembling legs could carry them. The haunting cries of disembodied voices echoed through the woods as they left the eerie place behind. Back in the safety of their own homes, they couldn't shake the feeling that the spirits of the haunted cottage had left a mark on them. They had encountered something beyond explanation, and it had left them with a profound sense of wonder and fear. The haunted cottage in the deep woods remained a place of mystery, a testament to the unknown forces that dwell in the shadows. The friends' encounter with the supernatural would stay with them forever, a chilling reminder that sometimes the legends of the past are more than just tales told around a campfire. They are real, and they can reach out to touch our world in ways we may never understand. Story 3. A small team of investigators, led by Dr. Samuel Holloway, an experienced paranormal researcher, had come to this forsaken place in pursuit of the supernatural. With their specialized equipment and unwavering determination, they aimed to unravel the mysteries that shrouded the farmhouse. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the overgrown yard, the investigators began their vigil. They set up cameras, audio recorders, and various sensors throughout the decaying structure, determined to document any unusual activity. The farmhouse exuded an eerie silence, broken only by the occasional rustling of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. It was as if the very air held its breath in anticipation of what the night might reveal. Hours passed, and the investigators began to feel a growing unease. It was as though the farmhouse itself had awakened, sensing their presence. Samuel, a stern and rational man, couldn't deny the palpable sense of something otherworldly in the air. Then, just as they were starting to wonder if they had come in vain, the first signs of the supernatural manifested. The temperature in the room plummeted, and the investigators' breath turned visible in the cold, despite it being a mild autumn night. An F recorder placed on an old wooden table began to emit chilling whispers and voices that sent shivers down their spines. One voice in particular stood out, an anguished plea for help. "Find me," it whispered, its spectral presence sending a chill through the investigators' bones. As they followed the eerie voices, the investigators noticed strange apparitions in the corners of their vision. Shadowy figures, flickering like candle flames, moved through the darkness. They captured these mysterious forms on their cameras, providing undeniable proof that something otherworldly inhabited the farmhouse. Samuel and his team pressed on, determined to uncover the truth. They conducted a séance, attempting to make direct contact with the spirits that lingered within the farmhouse's decaying walls. Through a series of knocks and raps, they communicated with the entities that had long been trapped there. The spirits shared their stories of a tragic fire that had claimed their lives and the farmhouse itself, leaving them trapped between worlds. They longed for closure and release from their eternal torment. Moved by their plight, Samuel and his team vowed to help the lost souls find peace. They performed rituals and conducted ceremonies to guide the spirits toward the afterlife. Slowly, the farmhouse began to lose its oppressive aura, and the whispers and apparitions grew less frequent. In the end, the derelict farmhouse, once a place of darkness and despair, found redemption through the efforts of those who dared to confront the supernatural. The investigators left with a newfound respect for the mysteries that lurked in the shadows, knowing that some secrets could only be uncovered by those brave enough to face the unknown. Story 4. It was a place that had long been shrouded in legend and fear, passed down through generations as a site of eerie occurrences. Locals avoided it at all costs, believing it to be cursed. But the call of the unknown is a powerful one, and a group of intrepid explorers, undeterred by the tales, decided to venture into the mansion's depths. Among them were Alex, a history enthusiast; Sarah, a psychic with a deep connection to the spiritual world; Marcus, a skeptic with a penchant for debunking the supernatural; and Lily, a thrill-seeker drawn to the macabre. As they crossed the threshold of the mansion, a profound sense of foreboding washed over them. The air grew icy, and their breath misted in front of them. Each step reverberated through the echoing corridors, as if awakening the dormant spirits that dwelled within. Sarah, sensitive to the energies around her, immediately felt a heavy presence. She described it as a lingering sadness, a torment that had taken root within the mansion's walls. As they ventured further, they heard faint whispers carried on the chilling drafts. The group decided to document their exploration, equipped with cameras and audio recorders. They wanted to capture evidence of the supernatural, to either validate or debunk the stories that had haunted the mansion for centuries. In one particularly dimly lit room, Sarah suddenly went still. Her eyes, normally vibrant and full of life, had taken on a distant, otherworldly gaze. She began to speak in a voice that was not her own, relaying the tragic tale of a young woman who had met a cruel fate within these very walls. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes as she channeled the spirit's emotions, recounting a love story torn apart by jealousy and betrayal. It was a tale of unrequited love and a life cut short, leaving the young woman's spirit trapped within the mansion's confines. As Sarah spoke, the temperature dropped further, and a mournful cry echoed through the hallways. It was the anguished spirit, longing for release from her eternal torment. Marcus, the skeptic, was shaken to his core by the experience. He had witnessed something inexplicable, and doubt was slowly giving way to belief. Lily, the thrill seeker, felt a sense of awe and respect for the spirits that dwelled within. Determined to help the trapped soul find peace, the group conducted a séance, guided by Sarah's psychic abilities. They communicated with the spirit and offered their condolences and assistance in finding closure. In the following days, the explorers continued their investigations, uncovering hidden relics and forgotten artifacts that shed light on the mansion's tragic history. It became clear that the spirit's story was intertwined with the mansion's own, and by acknowledging the past, they were one step closer to setting her free. As they concluded their time at the Gothic mansion, they left with a newfound understanding of the thin veil that separates the living from the dead. The mansion, once feared and forsaken, became a place of empathy and connection, reminding them that even in the darkest of places, there is the potential for redemption and the healing of long-held wounds. Story 5. The suburban house belonged to the Harrison family, a seemingly ordinary bunch, living a quiet and contented life. John and Sarah Harrison, along with their 2 young children, Emma and Ethan, had moved into the house with high hopes, for a peaceful suburban existence. However, it wasn't long before strange occurrences began to unfold. The Harrisons initially dismissed the flickering lights and unexplained creaks as mere quirks of an aging house. But as time passed, the unsettling phenomena escalated. One night, as the family gathered for dinner, their unease reached its peak. The dining table suddenly shook, sending plates, glasses, and cutlery clattering to the floor. Panic ensued as they watched in horror as the objects levitated in midair. Before crashing down, the room was filled with a chilling darkness that seemed to emanate from an unknown source. Terrified and unsure of what to do, the Harrisons reached out to paranormal investigators who had dealt with similar cases. A team led by Dr. Isabel Reynolds, a renowned paranormal researcher, arrived at the suburban house to conduct a thorough investigation. As they set up cameras and sensors throughout the house, the temperature dropped drastically, and an oppressive atmosphere settled over the Harrisons' home. The investigators knew they were dealing with a formidable and malevolent force. During a séance, Dr. Reynolds made contact with the entity responsible for the disturbances. It introduced itself as Malachi, a tormented soul with a tragic history tied to the very land upon which the house was built. Malachi's story unfolded in bits and pieces. An innocent man, wrongfully accused and executed, his anger and despair lingering in the afterlife. He sought revenge on the living, believing them responsible for his suffering. Dr. Reynolds and her team realized that they had to help Malachi find peace and break the cycle of vengeance that bound him to the suburban house. They conducted rituals and communicated with the entity, offering understanding and empathy for his plight. Over time, the darkness that had gripped the house began to lift. The Harrisons watched in amazement as their home returned to normal, no longer plagued by the malevolent force that had tormented them. As the days turned into weeks, the suburban house transformed from a place of fear into one of solace. The Harrison family, along with the paranormal investigators, learned that even the most ordinary-seeming places could harbor extraordinary secrets. In their journey to help a tormented spirit find peace, they discovered the power of compassion and understanding in bridging the gap between the living and the dead. Story 6. Legends of the castle's hauntings had echoed through generations. A tale of betrayal and tragedy that had left the spirits of its former inhabitants eternally bound to its crumbling corridors. A group of intrepid explorers, drawn by the allure of the supernatural, had come from across the world to investigate the castle's spectral legends. Among them was Dr. Rebecca Turner, a historian and paranormal researcher, and her team of daring investigators. As they crossed the castle's ancient drawbridge and passed through the towering gates, they were met with an eerie silence. The castle's cold stone walls seemed to hold the memories of a bygone era, and a sense of foreboding washed over the group. Rebecca, armed with her knowledge of history and a deep curiosity about the supernatural, had meticulously researched the castle's past. It was a place of knights and noble lords, loyalty and treachery. The spirits of those who had met brutal and untimely ends within these walls were said to haunt the castle's every corner. The explorers set up their equipment, including cameras, audio recorders, and electromagnetic field detectors, determined to capture evidence of the vengeful spirits. They ventured into the castle's shadowy depths, guided by flickering torchlight. As night fell and the temperature dropped, the castle seemed to come alive with spectral energy. Cold drafts whispered through the hallways, and the sound of ghostly footsteps echoed in the distance. The investigators began to experience inexplicable phenomena. Objects moved on their own, and eerie whispers filled the air. Rebecca, with her unwavering resolve, led her team in a seance to make contact with the vengeful spirits. As they called out to the knights, the temperature plummeted and the atmosphere grew electric with tension. Slowly, the spirits began to respond, recounting their tales of betrayal and injustice. They spoke of treacherous nobles who had plotted their downfall, and of the pain and anger that had bound them to the castle for centuries. Rebecca and her team listened with a mix of awe and sympathy, understanding that these knights sought justice and release from their torment. They vowed to help the spirits find peace and closure. Over the following days and nights, they conducted rituals and ceremonies, offering solace and forgiveness to the vengeful knights. As their efforts continued, the castle's oppressive aura began to lift, and the once vindictive spirits grew calmer. In the end, the ancient castle, once known for its dark and vengeful history, transformed into a place of reconciliation and redemption. The knights, released from their spectral chains, found the peace they had long sought, and the castle stood as a testament to the power of compassion and understanding in breaking the bonds of the past. The explorers left with a profound sense of awe, knowing they had helped bring closure to those who had been trapped in the shadows for centuries. Story 7. The apartment building had earned a notorious reputation over the years, with a revolving door of tenants fleeing in fear from the inexplicable events that plagued their lives. Unbeknownst to them, the building held a dark and malevolent force that would soon reveal itself to the unsuspecting residents. Among the building's current tenants was Sarah, a young woman who had recently moved into one of the units. At first, the strange occurrences seemed like minor inconveniences. A flickering light here, an unsettling chill there. But as the days passed, the disturbances escalated. One night, Sarah was jolted awake by a loud crashing sound in her kitchen. When she rushed to investigate, she found her dishes strewn across the floor as if they had been violently thrown. Cold dread gripped her heart as she realized she was not alone in her apartment. Desperate for answers, Sarah reached out to her neighbors, only to discover that they too had experienced eerie happenings. Objects moved on their own. Whispers echoed through the halls at night, and the mirrors in their apartments reflected ghostly figures that were not their own. Fearing for their safety and sanity, the tenants decided to band together to confront the malevolent presence within the building. They formed a makeshift team of paranormal investigators, determined to uncover the truth and put an end to the haunting. Their leader was Dr. Jonathan Harris, a seasoned researcher of the supernatural, armed with a plethora of equipment, including cameras, F-recorders, and infrared thermometers. They embarked on a harrowing journey to uncover the building's dark secrets. As they explored the building, they encountered chilling phenomena. Temperatures dropped drastically, even in rooms with no open windows, and the air grew thick with a sense of foreboding. In one particularly unsettling moment, they captured on camera a shadowy figure passing through a mirror, confirming the tenants' terrifying experiences. Dr. Harris and his team conducted seances, attempting to make contact with the entities that plagued the building. They discovered that the spirits were tormented souls, trapped by a malevolent force that fed off their fear and despair. With their findings in hand, the team worked tirelessly to break the malevolent force's hold on the building. They performed rituals, cleansed the apartments, and offered solace to the tormented spirits. Slowly but surely, the haunting began to subside, and the building's atmosphere grew less oppressive. In the end, the haunted apartment building transformed from a place of terror into a haven of peace. The tenants, once haunted by fear, found comfort in the knowledge that they had confronted the malevolent force and liberated the trapped spirits. They left the building with a newfound sense of strength and unity, forever changed by their chilling encounter with the supernatural. Story 8. Nestled among the town's cobbled streets and centuries. Old buildings, the inn appeared to be a charming retreat for travelers. Its warm, welcoming exterior concealed the dark secrets that lurked within its time-worn walls. Guests arrived at the inn, unaware of the chilling experiences that awaited them. Among them was Alex, an adventurous writer seeking inspiration for his next novel, and Emily, a historian with a passion for uncovering the truth behind local legends. As they checked into their rooms, the inn's eerie ambiance was palpable. The wooden floorboards creaked with each step, and a chill seemed to linger in the air, even though the fireplace crackled with warmth. It wasn't long before the inexplicable occurrences began. Guests reported hearing whispered voices in the dead of night and the sensation of icy fingers brushing against their skin. But the most terrifying of all were the apparitions. Shadowy figures that materialized at the foot of their beds, their eyes filled with a malevolence that sent shivers down the spine. Alex and Emily, intrigued by the inn's dark reputation, decided to investigate the paranormal phenomena firsthand. Armed with cameras, audio recorders, and a sense of trepidation, they ventured into the inn's dimly lit corridors. One fateful night, while conducting an EP session in one of the inn's most haunted rooms, they captured a chilling voice on their recording device. It spoke of tragedy and betrayal, hinting at a gruesome event that had taken place within these very walls. Determined to uncover the truth, Alex and Emily delved into the inn's history. They discovered that it had once been a gathering place for secretive societies and had witnessed sinister rituals and unspeakable acts. The spirits of those who had suffered within its confines now sought vengeance on any who dared to disturb their restless slumber. With their newfound knowledge, Alex and Emily embarked on a mission to appease the vengeful spirits. They performed rituals and ceremonies, seeking to bring peace to the tormented souls and lift the curse that had befallen the inn. As their efforts continued, the inn's oppressive atmosphere gradually waned. The apparitions that had haunted guests for generations began to fade, and the whispers in the night grew less frequent. The inn transformed from a place of dread into one of quiet solace. Alex and Emily left the haunted inn with a profound sense of accomplishment, knowing they had unraveled the mysteries that had plagued it for centuries. The small town's dark legend was now a tale of redemption, reminding all who heard it that even the most haunted places could find peace when faced with the courage to confront the supernatural. Story 9. The Asylum. A massive structure with crumbling facades and shattered windows stood as a grim testament to a bygone era of mental health care. Its history was marred by tales of suffering, neglect, and unspeakable horrors that had unfolded within its imposing walls. A small group of intrepid individuals, fascinated by the supernatural, gathered outside the asylum one moonless night. Among them was Rachel, a fearless paranormal investigator who had spent years studying the asylum's dark past. James, a skeptic who had reluctantly agreed to join the expedition, and Lisa and Mike, two thrill-seekers eager to confront their fears. The moment they stepped through the asylum's broken entrance, an oppressive atmosphere descended upon them. The air was thick with a palpable sense of anguish, as if the very walls retained the tortured souls of those who had suffered here. The group set up their equipment, including cameras, audio recorders, and MF detectors, determined to document any evidence of the supernatural. Their footsteps echoed through the asylum's echoing corridors, and the air seemed to grow colder with each passing moment. As the night wore on, the asylum revealed its sinister secrets. Blood-curdling screams echoed through the desolate halls, chilling the group to their bones. The investigators' equipment detected fluctuations in electromagnetic fields, and eerie shadows danced in the periphery of their vision. Rachel, the seasoned investigator, led the group in a seance, hoping to make contact with the tormented spirits that still lingered within the asylum. As they called out to the entities, the atmosphere grew even more charged, and the temperature dropped to an unbearable level. Slowly but surely, the spirits began to respond, their voices laden with despair and suffering. They recounted tales of institutionalized cruelty, of patients subjected to inhumane treatments and unspeakable abuses. It was a history stained with darkness and death. The group, deeply moved by the spirits' tragic stories, vowed to help them find peace and closure. They performed rituals and conducted ceremonies to guide the lost souls toward the afterlife, hoping to break the cycle of torment that had bound them to the asylum for so long. As the first light of dawn broke, the oppressive atmosphere that had hung over the asylum began to lift. The screams faded into silence, and the shadows retreated into the darkness. The investigators left the abandoned institution with a profound sense of both dread and compassion, knowing that they had confronted a malevolent force that had tormented the lost souls for far too long. The abandoned asylum, once a place of unimaginable suffering, became a symbol of the resilience of the human spirit. The investigators had shone a light into the darkest corners of its history, offering solace and hope to the tormented souls who had longed for release from their eternal anguish. Story 10. The farmhouse, a rustic and weather-beaten structure, stood as a relic of a bygone era. It was nestled on the outskirts of a sleepy town, where legends of the haunted farmhouse had been whispered among locals for generations. The mere mention of its name sent shivers down the spine of anyone familiar with its dark history. Among those who dared to explore the farmhouse were Sarah and Michael, a couple with an insatiable curiosity about the supernatural. Drawn by the tales of the weeping ghostly girl, they decided to spend a night within its haunted walls. As night fell and the moon cast an eerie glow over the farmhouse, Sarah and Michael ventured into the attic, armed with flashlights and digital cameras. The air grew heavy with anticipation as they climbed the creaking stairs, their footsteps echoing through the dusty space. As they entered the attic, a chill settled over them, and their breath misted in the cold air. It was then that they saw her, a young girl, her spectral form bathed in an ethereal light, sitting in a corner, her eyes filled with sadness as she wept. The couple, frozen in fear and awe, could do nothing but watch as the ghostly figure beckoned them closer. Her cries, though soundless, resonated deep within their souls, conveying a profound sense of sorrow and despair. With trembling hands, Sarah and Michael attempted to communicate with the apparition, using a spirit board to spell out words. The girl revealed her name, Emily, and recounted a heartbreaking tale of being orphaned and abandoned in the farmhouse, left to endure a lonely and tragic existence. As they listened to her story, the couple felt an overwhelming urge to help the tormented spirit find peace. They conducted a seance, calling upon the forces of light to guide Emily's soul toward the afterlife and release her from her eternal sorrow. Slowly, as the night waned, the attic began to brighten with an otherworldly light, and Emily's tearful visage transformed into a serene expression of gratitude. Her presence slowly faded, leaving behind an atmosphere of tranquility and closure. Sarah and Michael left the spooky farmhouse with a mixture of relief and reverence, knowing that they had played a role in bringing peace to the restless spirit of Emily. Farmhouse, once a place of haunting and sorrow, became a symbol of the enduring power of compassion and the ability to soothe even the most tormented souls. Emily's cries, once etched in their minds as a haunting memory, now rested in peace, forever freed from the chains of her tragic past. Thank you for joining us on this bone-chilling journey through the realm of haunted houses. If you enjoyed these hair-raising tales, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more heart-stopping stories and paranormal investigations. Until next time, stay spooky.